Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. We are over halfway through the week, which means we've got 2 days to go until Chelsea play again away at Nottingham Forest. Tomorrow there will be a match preview as well as any breaking news that I think might be relevant and interesting for you lot. Whilst you're here, we're creeping up towards 300,000 subscribers and I'd absolutely love to hit that lucrative number before we go on a pre-season tour. I've teased it there for you. We might be doing it. And also, smack a like on this video. We begin today talking about Victor Osimhen. We're going to move on and talk about a couple of other players that Chelsea are linked with, my top-end thoughts on that. And then we're going to finish by reacting to Todd Boehly's comments. And I've seen a lot of people, particularly on Twitter, are reacting to this saying, oh, just another interview of Boehly, making it clear that all he wants for Chelsea is to make money. And I'm going to kind of rationalize it in a different way to hopefully shed a bit of light on why, yes, it does sound like a very commercial interview, heavily dominated about Chelsea growing their fan base and making money. But I actually think a lot of the transfer news that we're talking about here actually kind of fits into that and also makes us a better football team. First of all, priority of Victor Osimhen is the Premier League and Chelsea. Napoli are happy to negotiate if Lukaku is included in the operation. Look, here I think Osimhen wants to leave Napoli. They know that. The Premier League is obviously the right option for Victor Osimhen. Real Madrid are going to get Mbappe. I don't really think anyone else can afford him. I think Arsenal will be in the run-in, but I think Chelsea, having offered Lukaku potentially, this could actually be a lot more lucrative for Napoli in terms of them accepting a deal, entering negotiations, and realistically, I think if Chelsea are in for Osimhen, I think Osimhen goes to Chelsea, but Arsenal might be stiff competition. We move into some progressions. If you watched yesterday's video, which if you want to know a bit more about Estevao Willian, check out yesterday's video. Chelsea have reached a verbal agreement with Estevao Willian. For the moment, there is still no agreement between Chelsea and Palmeiras, but negotiations between the two parties will continue. Personal terms have been agreed, basically. Chelsea had been speaking, I think, to his dad. Obviously, he's only 17, which is very bloody young. That was literally 13 years ago for me, almost. Mental stuff. But the fact that he is open to come to Chelsea, wants to come to Chelsea, as we saw yesterday, Chelsea have been the lead club approaching Estevao Willian since back in, I think, January or November last year. So as long as Chelsea can figure out the actual structure of this deal, Estevao Willian will be a Chelsea player. And later in this video, when we talk about Todd Boehly's interview that he's done, I'm going to tell you why players like Estevao Willian might actually be the future for Chelsea in terms of, yes, it sounds like Boehly wants to make money. I keep alluding to this. We will talk about it properly at the end. But players like Estevao Willian, this is how you grow a brand. And it could be the next generational talent that we see come through. Newcastle and Inter Milan have joined the race to sign Jules Kounde, who has attracted interest from Chelsea, Manchester United, and Paris Saint-Germain. Look, Chelsea have got Malo Gusto. We have got Reece James in the right-back position. We got Wesley Fofana, Trevoh Chalobah. I don't think Chelsea need Jules Kounde. I don't think Jules Kounde is as good of a footballer as I really thought a couple of years ago when Chelsea were interested in him, when he was back at Sevilla. I don't think his time at Barcelona has been magnificent. I think they've got a lot better defenders, which is probably why they're trying to get rid of him. And to be fair, I don't really think Barcelona are all that great. I do think Jules Kounde could be a decent option with the way that we're currently playing, but I'm not backing this one. I really don't think he is as good as people have led on. Chelsea have identified Everton goalkeeper Jordan Pickford as a summer target. Now listen, I like Petrovic. I think Petrovic is a good goalkeeper. I've never been a big fan of Sanchez. I don't think he's a very good keeper. Jordan Pickford, as much as he can have those games where you're like, how can you not do this every week? Why do you not do this every week? That is the reason in my head that Jordan Pickford is not a top goalkeeper. So if we're going to go out for a goalkeeper this summer, I don't think we should be having 3 goalkeepers that aren't world class at the club. I don't see any benefit to keeping multiple pretty good, if not good at best, goalkeepers. I think Petrovic can become much better, but I don't think Pickford is at that level. If you think about when Man City bought Ederson, Liverpool bought Alisson. These are world-class goalkeepers that have enabled them to win points by themselves in matches. Alisson even comes up and scores for Liverpool. I think it was against West Brom in the 97th minute or something nonsensical. I don't see Jordan Pickford as that much of an upgrade on Petrovic, if I'm very honest. Of course, there is the element of Premier League experience here. He wants to leave Everton. What would the price be? We'd have to wait and see. But for me, I'm not sold on this one. The Times, they're back at it again. This flipping publication, right? All they ever seem to do is try and spark fear into Chelsea fans. But until we've qualified for Europe next season, I want to look at the actual factual outcome that comes from this as opposed to the scaremonger inside right now. Chelsea likely to face an uphill battle to comply with UEFA's financial rules if they qualify for Europe next season. I don't know if any of this is true, and I think realistically there's not enough information and data right now about Chelsea's finances for anyone to give definitive answers. We know that by the end of June, we do have to sell, I think it's 106 million or something's worth of players. And I definitely believe that is going to be doable. Whether or not I'm going to agree with all of the angles and avenues in which we go about that is for another day. And come the end of the season, we will know more. But let's take a little look now at Todd Boehly's comments. I want to keep the transfer stuff sort of minimal while the season is still on, because then we'll start to get real videos out about transfers as the rumour mill spins and continues. Chelsea's recent form shows plan is coming together, says Todd Boehly. That is the top end line here. So, Mauricio Pochettino, should the Chelsea head coach stay or go? Boehly, who was not asked about the head coach during his interview, said. So the blue that you can see here on this little text piece is kind of like what's being alluded to. We've seen the last 2.5 games, at least in the second half at Aston Villa and Tottenham and West Ham, where we played just beautiful football. I mean, I don't think anyone can disagree with that. I think definitely when it comes to the plan coming together, it's kind of like he's wanted to say this for a while. He's wanted there to be some good performances, to be like, look, everyone's been looking at us as a laughing stock. Everyone's been looking at us as a joke. But finally, things are coming together. And if we get battered at Forest 5-0, then I bet that comes unstuck again. Based on the concept of anchoring, the de facto salary cap would limit the amount of money any club can invest in their squads by tying it to a multiple of what the lowest earners get from the league's centralised broadcast and commercial deals. It will be formally voted on in a meeting at the Premier League's annual general meeting in June. Chelsea abstained from the initial proposals in a meeting last week, but Boehly indicated his support on stage on Wednesday. So when asked about this anchoring, which is a new concept that's being introduced by the Premier League, I personally don't really agree with this because I support a bigger club in the Premier League. So if you're a Sheffield United fan, you're happy probably with this, although you're going down, so you're probably unhappy. But the big clubs probably won't be liking this that much. But anyway, Premier League salary cap mailbag. Why? Who wins and loses? How would it work? This is Todd Boehly's comments. We are supportive of anything that adds to the competitive nature of the sport, he said. The reason the Premier League is doing so well is because it is so competitive and everyone wants to watch it and no one knows how the games are going to happen. If you look around at what's going on right now in different European leagues, some of them are having a hard time selling their media rights. I think the competitiveness that you're going to continue to see and evolve as the sport evolves is just going to be good for the Premier League. Look, I think at the end of the day, what he's saying is right. The Premier League is the most lucrative league. It's the league that brings in the most money. And I do believe a lot of that is down to the fact that it is competitive. It's not, I mean, it kind of is dominated by Man City, kind of, but we get title races. This year it's kind of been broken in Germany, but it's always Barcelona, Atletico, Real Madrid in Spain. A lot of Europe's top leagues just don't necessarily have the same, I would say, entertainment factor as the Premier League. You very rarely see the top clubs in the other top leagues across Europe getting beaten by the bottom side. I do think there is an element of truth here behind what Todd Boehly is saying. Then we move, and this is, in my opinion, what has got people to start thinking that this interview once again just simply shows that the new Chelsea owners have only got making money on their mind. I'm going to tell you why I don't quite see it that way. One of the things that Premier League clubs have is worldwide marks they can use. We've got a global group of players from Argentina to Brazil. Part of the long-range plan will be really to extend the brand as much as possible to build a fan base, because ultimately the larger our fan base grows, the more competitive we'll be able to be, because these salary caps are based on revenue. So what I see here, if we tie in Chelsea agree in personal terms with Estevao Willian, who, yes, there's no guarantee because he is so young. He's 17. There's no guarantee that he will be a Ballon d'Or winner, that he will be the best right winger in the world, which a lot of people are touting and saying that he will be, but it goes hand in hand. The reason that clubs like Paris Saint-Germain wanted Neymar is because Neymar was that tantalising player that you just look at who gets you off your feet, and he's a big household name to grow the Paris Saint-Germain brand. People are watching them. Messi. Why does everyone want Lionel Messi? Because he sells. Lionel Messi is the face of football, so you want him in your club. And I think what Chelsea are doing is they're trying to give themselves the best opportunity by buying so many young players. And after watching this interview, I start to look at it this way. We're trying to give ourselves the best potential to have these players already at the club. So by default, if they become as good as the scouting and the data suggests that they could be, then Chelsea have already got the best players in the world, which by default brings the most eyes and gets Chelsea the most attention. So when we're looking at all of this here, and people are trying to top line it saying, oh yeah, but it's because they only care about the money. These guys are business people. I think by default, of course, they're going to have financial gain, and they're going to have the financial growth of the brand and the club, and ideally for them, their pockets at the forefront of everything. But I think as much as we've criticised the new owners, I mean, they got rid of Thomas Tuchel, who had a 60% win percentage at Chelsea, and Pochettino's got a 41% win percentage. So you can argue that right from the beginning, they made decisions that might not have actually been the best for Chelsea. They've spent over £1 billion already. Some of those players are starting to come good, which kind of gives us less reason to be less negative and less hateful towards them. But I do think there is a really strong element here about the way that Chelsea is spending the money, particularly in those places like Brazil, where historically they've been exciting, skillful, talented players that get people's attention from these places. He then goes on to say, in order to compete, you have to have growing revenue. And I think a brand like Chelsea really allows for that. Growing that brand, especially globally, is predicated on winning. I think that winning is at the top of the things that's most important. When you're attracting a new fan, the key is to have something that's really aspirational. So, when we look at these comments here, and this is the last ones that we're going to talk about here today with Todd Boehly's comments, I think as much as we can all go out there and say, look, these guys just want to make money. Yes, they do. But at the same time, I do see what they're trying to do here. And I think the point I've made earlier in this video is it makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of sense for Chelsea to be going out there, buying loads of young players that could blow up in the future. I get it. What I will say, which again doesn't change the fact that in terms of having that as like a do or die model, it never needed to be that extreme. It never needed to be that. And I think the fact now that we are not going to be going with the strict policy of only under 23 players or whatever it was, means that the club understands that obviously you can attract the young players, you can attract the young talent, but in terms of like flipping these players, their prices don't increase if Chelsea are in the middle of the table. Their prices don't increase if Chelsea aren't competing for silverware, if Chelsea aren't winning silverware. So as much as we can say that there's been idiotic decisions, as much as we might want to just, go absolutely in on the owners, I think this is a relatively eye-opening interview from Todd Boehly. And I think when you're attracting a new fan, the key is to have something that's really aspirational. I think I'm going to read into this by saying that Chelsea want the best talent in the world at our club so that we have more eyes on the club so that they make more money. Everyone's a winner in that case. If Chelsea have the best players available, then Chelsea win things. And if Chelsea have the best players available, we grow as a brand, they get what they want financially out of it, and we get a successful team. So, yeah, people can look at this as negatively as they want. I am deciding to spin it. And as much as that might not be favourable to some of you, I think the way that I'm feeling about watching Chelsea and enjoying Chelsea and looking forward as a Chelsea fan at the moment, I certainly feel like being optimistic again is on my menu. It's on my agenda. And I would like to try and spread some of that. Let me know your thoughts on this Todd Boehly interview. I think it's very interesting in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the players that we discussed at the beginning of this video also, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow with a brand new one. Come on, you Blues.